Designing a keyguard that will be laser cut is just like designing a keyguard that will be created with a 3D printer. In fact, you could design your keyguard completely to be 3D printed and then change your mind at the end. You may just find that some of the options that you set are ignored in the laser cut version. You can save yourself some surprises and disappointments by setting the type of keyguard to laser cut at the very start. The color of the displayed keyguard changes from blue to gold as a visual reminder that you're now in the laser cut acrylic domain. You'll also notice a couple of other immediate changes. The opening for the camera will increase in size. All chamfers will disappear. Chamfers are the little cuts around the outside of the keyguard and at the top of any opening that keeps the edges from being too sharp. Also, those 60-degree angles on the rails between the openings in the grid all go up to 90-degree angles. The missing chamfers and the 90-degree angles are all based on a limitation of laser cutters. The laser beam can only shine directly down from above as it cuts the sheet of acrylic. Let's continue creating a keyguard, and I'll point out where your choices are limited by the laser cutter. Some limitations are just best practices recommended by the folks at Keyguard AT. They have lots of experience with laser cut keyguards and know what it takes to make them sturdy. By the way, if you want to design a keyguard with the Volkswitch designer that will be laser cut, you'll have to do it in OpenSCAD. The Thingiverse customizer can't generate the right kind of file at the end. Everything you've learned about the tablet and tablet case options still apply. All options in the app layout section apply with the exception of the bar edge slope. As you might expect, you can change the value to something other than 90 degrees, but the designer will just ignore your choice. I'll add some space for the message bar and toolbar. The grid category of options mostly works the same way with just a couple of exceptions. You'll notice that you can't have a rail width that's smaller than 3 millimeters. Of course, the rail slope has to be 90 degrees even though the value of the option says 60 degrees. Keyguard AT recommends against sharp corners on the openings in the keyguard, so rectangles will look like rounded rectangles. And the rounding of the corners will have to be at least 1/10 the size of the shortest side of the rectangle. You don't have to worry about calculating that. The designer will do it for you. You'll just notice that the designer will ignore you if you try to set the corner radius too small. Laser cut keyguards are produced from a flat sheet of acrylic. That has two impacts. First, you have no control over the thickness of the keyguard. That will be determined by the thickness of the acrylic sheet that you put in the laser cutter. And you can't have any raised features, so you can't put ridges around any cells. There are only two options for mounting a laser cut keyguard, at least for the one designed in the Volkswitch Keyguard Designer. I'll set the value of have a case to yes. You can choose slide-in tabs or no mount as your keyguard mounting method. If you choose slide-in tabs, you can control the width and distance between the tabs. but the thickness and length are fixed to make it easy to mill the top part of the tab away. You're just about done, but we need to look at the console window to verify that there won't be any problems cutting the acrylic. I see several issues relating to the keyguard perimeter being too thin to comfortably laser cut and still guarantee that it will be strong. The issues first appeared when I indicated that the keyguard would be going in a case. Unfortunately, the opening in the case fits very close to the edge of the screen, and the upper message bar opening goes right up to the edge of the screen. The minimum thickness of the perimeter depends on how wide the keyguard is. The wider the keyguard, the thicker the perimeter has to be. You can add additional thickness to the perimeter by setting options to compensate for tight cases in the Special Actions and Settings section. We'll start by adding height compensation. Note that the value you add for this option will be applied to the top and bottom of the keyguard, so you need to put a value in here that is twice as large as you might think. We won't notice the effect of this change on the bottom of the keyguard because that perimeter is already pretty thick. We'll increase the option until the issue goes away in the console pane. The issue went away when we added 3 millimeters, a total of 6 millimeters, to both the top and the bottom. Now we'll address the remaining two issues the same way. Once there are no more issues, we can move on to representing the design as an SVG file. We'll begin by setting the Generate option in the Special Actions and Settings to First Layer for SVG/DXF file. This can take a little time depending on how complex your keyguard is. Now render the design. This two-dimensional model can now be exported as an SVG file and given to the people who will laser cut your keyguard. If you have access to a 3D printer, you might want to stop prior to the Generate as First Layer step and print at least the first few layers of your design. It's better to spend a few pennies and test the fit of your design to the case and app before you spend tens of dollars laser cutting your design.